What is up, guys? Happy Friday or happy Saturday, happy weekend. This morning, I'm going to get some miles in one of my favorite daily trainers of this year, the Asics Nova Blast 4. And this has also been one of my favorite shoes to take out for some longer runs, which I'm not going to be doing this morning, but anything over an hour, anything over an hour and a half, 2 hours, this thing has been awesome. I even took it up for a 3-hour long run. So what I want to do in this video is take you through my approach on how I find the best long run shoes for me. We've tested a lot of shoes this year. I've put 20-mile long runs, 22-mile long runs on bang, bang, boom, boom, bang, 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 boom, bang. But a lot of these shoes I've put, we don't need the onomatopoeias, but a lot of these shoes I put 20-mile long runs on. So we're going to lace up the Nova Blast 4 here, hit the road, and then when we come back, I'll walk you through how you can find the perfect long run shoe for your own feet. Let's get into it. Kobe. Ah, that was so close. All right, clothes on, ready to go. Let's do it. So I want to start off by telling you the reason why I love the Nova Blast 4 so much as a long run shoe. And so I was thinking about a few of the different elements that I look for in a long run shoe. And this has all of them, right? Comfort is absolutely number one. And lacing this thing up here, it is a very comfortable shoe from the foam to the step-in feel, all the way up to the upper and the amount of padding we get in the back. And on long runs, man, if I'm going to be out there for 2 hours, I mean, if I'm going to be out there for 30 minutes, I want to be comfortable. But if I'm going to be out there for 2 hours or more, being comfortable is number one on my list without any question. And then second, stability. This is something that I look for in a lot of shoes now because a lot of shoes have it. For me, there's no reason to be running in a shoe that's going to be harder, more challenging, a little difficult to run in if I don't have to. If there's an option on the market that has a little bit more stability on these long runs, that's going to make it a little bit easier to maintain form for me throughout the run. And then last, speed assistance. What kind of elements of speed assistance do these shoes have? And this one doesn't have too many elements of speed assistance. It doesn't have a huge curved rocker platform. It doesn't have a super bouncy foam. So I'll use this shoe typically for long runs at a more relaxed pace. But those are three of the main things I look for in a long run shoe: comfort, stability and support, speed assistance. When we get back, I'm going to take you through how you can pick your long run shoe and then some options on the market that exemplify those key characteristics. So let's hit this run. All right, guys, boom. Let's see. 6.34 miles, 44 minutes, 6 minutes and 57 seconds. So I did 6 miles with some strides at the end, and I was cruising at about a 4-something pace at the end. Recovery weeks are a heck of a drug, man. It's Rick James, but I'm just kidding. But Nova Blast 4, still a goated shoe. Great for 45-minute runs, great for 90-minute runs, and great for anything over 2 hours. So let's lace these things down, and then I'm going to pop down to the street, talk you through how you can find a long run shoe. Hey, those guys are putting in work. Nice work. Oh, they're walking.
I guess they're rucking. Yo, rucking is sick. That's fire. So when I first got the Nova Blast 4, I was a little bit skeptical of the shoe, especially on shorter runs. And now that I have 100-something miles in it, it's feeling better for these short runs. But by the way, guys, I think most of these modern shoes now, if they have slightly firmer foams, they're going to feel best between 100 and 300 miles. They'll soften up, they'll break in. Someone who I recommended to get this shoe, he was concerned. He's about to run a 4-hour marathon or already did, but he was concerned that putting too many miles on it during training would decrease their performance on race day. Unless you're putting in, for most people, north of 350 miles, unless you're putting in north of, what does that convert to in kilometers? 300 miles. A 5K is 10. No, a 5K is 3 miles. So 300 miles would be, unless you're putting north of 500 kilometers on a shoe before race day, it will not decrease the performance. And this is actually one of my top picks for a 4-hour marathon shoe. And as I've put more miles on it, it's just become more comfortable, more exciting, more fun to run in. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about today, man. I saw this thing on Instagram. There is so much, I'm just going to be blunt. There is so much trash on Instagram. I might have to pop up and reactivate that Supwell channel with some more analysis, because the only way to fight bad speech is good speech. So I saw this video on Instagram of a guy saying that he bought new shoes for race day because he wanted that pop. Now, the shoes that he bought were also the Adidas Adios Pro 3, which those are the type of shoes to break in. And I'm not saying it's completely foolish to buy a new pair of shoes for race day, but what I am saying is, in most cases, you don't need a brand new, fresh pair of shoes for race day, and there is a benefit. Bringing it back to the topic. Oops, I forgot it. Shout out to J. Cole. But bring it back to the topic here. There's a benefit to training and then racing in the same shoe, because doing that will give you more confidence in what's on your foot. And you guys have heard the expression probably, or if you haven't, I'm going to get you hip to it. Nothing new on race day. I like having a shoe on my foot for any big workouts or races that I'm super comfortable in. I don't want any guesswork. And so if you get a training shoe like the Nova Blast 4 for your long run, and then you lace it up on race day, you'll already have put 10 long runs on it, 8 long runs on it. You know exactly how it feels. You know how to lace it up the right way so it doesn't hurt your foot and so that you get a secure fit. You know exactly how you should be landing with the shoe and how it feels to run with the shoe across a bunch of different paces. You know how the grip is in wet weather, and you've run in that shoe within the past 5 days, so it's not going to be a brand new experience. Now, for shorter races, and if you are targeting a massive PR, maybe it might make sense to use a race shoe with a little bit more pop, maybe something like the Nike Vaporfly, where in that shoe, I do feel that the ZoomX tends to decline over time. But with something like the Nova Blast 4 and a lot of the marathon racing shoes that we have now, they're engineered with a lot more rubber on the bottom than they used to have to protect the shoe for durability. And these foams tend to last really well. This is the FF Blast Plus by ASICS. This is a foam that it appears differently across their different shoes, but in this shoe, it's been really solid for me, really consistent, and even getting a little bit better with time. So all that is to say, if you're running a marathon or a half marathon and you use this video to help pick your perfect long run shoe, you might as well go and race in that shoe, because that's what's going to give you the most confidence on race day. And 35% of running, guys, is mental. Other 65 is what we do during training. And actually, you can train your mental during training as well. So let's pop down to the street, and I'm gonna talk you through long run shoe picking tutorial. All right, guys, so we just finished 6 miles with strides in the ASICS Nova Blast 4, which, as I mentioned, is one of my favorite long run shoes. Now, when thinking about how to find your perfect long run shoe. There are a few criteria that I want to go through that's going to make it a little bit easier to narrow it down. Of course, as I mentioned when we were lacing up there, you want something comfortable, you want something that's going to be relatively stable or supportive, whatever that means for you. You're going to have to figure out how to best pick a shoe based on the support that your foot, body, and stride needs, which I can get into. And then third, what kind of elements of speed assistance do you want? So let's start there. First, when thinking about comfort, the criteria that I look for in a running shoe, it's all about the midsole foam first and foremost. So right now I'm specializing in the marathon. I'm doing 100-mile weeks most weeks. This is a down week, so I'm hitting 60, and most of my long runs are 20 to 22 miles. Now, one of the benefits of the market for running shoes today is that these shoes are stuffed with these gigantic stacks of midsole foam, which make it so much more comfortable to run. So when looking for long run shoes for me and when testing long run shoes, you'll notice that on most of those 22 milers that I'm doing, I'm running in shoes with at least 35 millimeters of foam in the heel. Now, there are tons of shoes that are fun to run in and that are comfortable and supportive that are less than 35 millimeters in the heel. You have shoes like the New Balance Rebel V4, you have the Adidas Takumi Sen 10, which I ran in earlier this week and I enjoyed, but not for the marathon style of training that I'm doing now. Then you also have shoes like the Topo Cyclone 2 and Nike Streak Fly, and a lot of those shoes are specialized for either everyday miles, which is a little bit ironic to say specialized, but I guess in that case they're not specialized to be long run shoes, or they're designed more for short and fast distances. And with the market the way it is today, we also have a ton of these shoes like the Asics Nova Blast 4 that have upwards of 40 millimeters of stack height in the heel here. So when looking for good long run shoes, I always in 2024 first look at the stack height. If it's below 36 millimeters, me personally, I'm not going to choose it for a long run unless I'm testing it. Of course, I've run in the Rebel, probably running some other things, and there's different theories out there about running in lower stack shoes can strengthen your legs, and whether or not that's true. For me, I would rather have the most amount of comfort, because my goal with running is not to have strong legs. It's to run more, be happy, not be injured, maybe run a faster marathon time. Sometimes that's my goal, sometimes that's not. But if that's your goal, I would look for shoes that are comfortable and supportive for you. If you like running in lower stack shoes, go ahead and do it. Run in a barefoot shoe. That's not what I'm advising. I would advise most people out there, especially beginner runners, if you're training for your first marathon, go for that ultimate comfort with the midsole. Look for shoes close to 40 millimeters, like the Nova Blast, like the Gel Nimbus, even like the Adidas Adios Pro 3 here, which is a marathon racing shoe that has 39 millimeters in the heel. So that's the first thing, comfort of the midsole, taller stack of foam. The other thing with the midsole is how soft the compound is. Now that's something that you can't necessarily tell online unless you watch my reviews. So I would do your research using my videos on how soft a midsole foam is. And of course, everybody has a different preference, but I generally try to tell you how soft or firm something is compared to other shoes on the market. And then also sometimes I'll pull out the durometer. So something like the Nova Blast 4, this is really in the sweet spot for me where it's not as firm as a standard EVA, which is the foam that's been used in shoes for a long time. Most brands are transitioning away from it, but it's not as firm as an older traditional shoe. It's also not as soft as some of these marathon racing shoes with the ZoomX, which is why I like it. It blends comfort with support, which gets me to the next point around here around support. So I generally will also look for these wider bases around here in the back, especially if I'm not doing a fast run. I like to have a little bit more support, a little bit more width, and most recreational runners out there will probably benefit from that support because it adds to the comfort, it adds to the confidence. If you're gonna be out there for 2.5 hours, most of us can benefit from a little bit extra support with that cushion and the width of the shoe. Most of us can benefit from a little extra support, and having that wider base also allows for the taller stack of foam, which is going to be more protective, to also be more stable and easier to run in. And the easier a shoe is to run in, the more comfortable we are, the less energy we will be expending. And guys, by the way, studies have shown that it's not just the physical energy we're expending, the calories that we're burning that's gonna make us fatigued. There's also a huge mental part of it, which is why sometimes we'll have these great training runs and then on race day, due to the stress we're putting on our bodies, we don't get the same performance because that mental energy expenditure goes into the calculations as well. So the more comfortable and confident we are, again, the better we'll perform on race day, which is why I go for comfortable and supportive shoes. Now, the third thing here, third and final thing I look for and the shoe is related to the element of speed assistance. So if you take a look at the Nova Blast 4 here, in particular, it's a tall stack of foam. It's decently bouncy, but it's not the bounciest in the world. It doesn't have a super high energy return foam, meaning when you're running, it's not bouncing you off. So it doesn't have that carbon fiber plate in here to stabilize that foam, which those carbon fiber plates are needed in the super bouncy race day foams. However, it does have this little launch pad here. And today when I did this run 6 miles with strides, I wanted to test it to see if it did have those elements of speed assistance that I look for in a long run shoe, because I typically don't put any pace on this shoe. This is my everyday, more relaxed shoe. I actually haven't run it in a while because I've been testing some other things. But a shoe like this is not going to have a lot of elements of speed assistance, and depending on your pace, this may feel good for you at your marathon race pace if you're practicing marathon race pace during your long runs. But for some others of you, me included, I would not take this shoe for long runs when I'm doing marathon race pace. So that's the other thing I want to talk about here, is the use case of these shoes is going to depend on what style of long runs you're doing during marathon training. So for this third one, speed assistance, if you are doing a lot of runs with marathon race pace, if you're targeting a sub 3 marathon or a sub 3:30 marathon, you may want a shoe that has a little bit more zest, a little bit more pop to it. So if you look at this shoe compared to the Nova Blast, few elements of speed assistance here. One is this bouncy foam. So this one is the Adidas Light Strike Pro foam. It's not necessarily softer, but there is a density and a nice bounce to it when we're running fast. So that's the first thing. The foam compound itself is going to be a lot bouncier in here. Second is the rods. So for Adidas, instead of using a carbon fiber plate, they use these carbon fiber energy rods to stabilize the foam. And then the third is, if you look at the geometry or the way the bottom of the shoe is shaped, it curves upwards here. This is called a rocker. So that's the third element of speed assistance, where as you run and roll along, it helps roll you forward and it puts you more up on your toes, which for faster, more aggressive running is the feeling that you want. Now, for me personally, if I'm doing a marathon pace run, my marathon pace right now is between 6 minutes and 6 minutes and 30 seconds. I will go for a shoe like this, a marathon racing shoe, Saucony Endorphin Pro 4, one of the Nike shoes, one of the ASICS shoes. That would be my preference over something like the Nova Blast here. This guy is the one that I pull for if I'm doing a more relaxed long run, and both of those long runs are important in marathon training. The more relaxed long runs, those help us develop the mitochondria. They help us develop some of those slow twitch muscles, which are super important. They help us get better at burning fat, more efficient at conserving our glycogen stores. So there's a ton of benefits of those slower long runs, and then the faster long runs, those are going to help us practice race pace, get more comfortable working at that harder effort, and also just generally increase our fitness, because the fitness goes up when we're pushing ourselves. The higher stimulus that we put on the body, the more that our body has to respond, super compensate, or get stronger. So you stress the body and then it bounces back. A shoe like this is what I go for those harder efforts. Now, thinking about what these two shoes have in common and what make them both great long run shoes, they both have those tall stacks up near 40 millimeters. They're both comfortable, they're both cushioned, they're both decently stable with those nice wider bases, and they're both easy to run in. Again, that's the other key. You don't want something that feels weird. Now, I do have to say there are going to be trade-offs between going for this shoe or this shoe. Nova Blast 4, a shoe like this, a training shoe, is going to be heavier. It's not going to have as much pep. It's not going to be as fun to run in, but these tend to be a little bit more durable on the positive side and have a lot more comfort and cushion in the upper. And specifically in the case of the Adios Pro 3 here, this is not the most comfortable upper. You're not going to get the most padding on the top here. It is going to feel a little bit different on top of your foot, but with that, you do get a little bit of a lighter weight. And of course, you get all those elements of speed assistance that's going to make running faster a little bit better. Plus, if you plan to run in a shoe like this on race day, you can practice using it during training. Now, with using a shoe like the Adidas Adios Pro 3, because it does make it that much easier to run, I typically would like to rotate this in with other shoes. I don't have anything against running in plated shoes a lot, and studies haven't proven yet that it's necessarily a bad thing to be running in plated shoes all the time. However, the studies aren't everything, and just using common sense, it feels a little bit weird to me to run in a plated shoe every day. So I do like switching it up, and studies have shown that the best thing we can do when it comes to the footwear to prevent injuries is to rotate between different shoes. So using a shoe like this, I would mix in something with a different drop to it, so a different offset between the front and the back, something without a plate, something with a lower stack, and making sure that we're rounding out all the different shoes. So maybe we use this for 1 week for a long run, maybe we use the Nova Blast 4 the next week, and then if we have a more simple shoe like the Pegasus or the Saucony Ride or Adidas Adizero SL, maybe we'd use that for a down week, long run, we're only doing 10 to 12 miles. So last thing I wanted to mention is budget, because that's going to be a key consideration when deciding what long run shoe you should pick. Now, a shoe like the Nova Blast 4 here, this is priced at $140. Most of these everyday training shoes are priced near $140, $150, and then these race day shoes go all the way up to $250. And if you are going to be paying for this, again, this is why I'm saying you don't need to buy a new pair for race day. These are really durable shoes. This one, I'll list off the shoes right now that are going to be durable in the marathon training segment. This shoe right here, Adidas Adios Pro 3, Saucony Endorphin Pro 4, New Balance SC Elite V4. Those are probably the three that I recommend if you want something durable, and they'll all give you different capabilities. This is bouncy, dense, not necessarily super firm, but a little bit on the firmer side. Saucony Endorphin Pro 4, that's soft, bouncy, fun to run in, very agreeable with a bunch of different paces and foot strikes. And then the last one that I mentioned, SC Elite V4, that's the most stable, that's the widest, it has the lowest drop, so you get a ton of foam in the forefoot, and that's going to be the best one if you want the maximum amount of cushion and protection. So those are the three I would choose if you want to get the most bang for your buck. And the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4, that shoe is $225, which is the same as high-end training shoes these days. So marathons and marathon training it's a time-consuming pursuit. It can be expensive. The footwear, I think, is one of the things that's going to be worth it to spend money on if we're lacing these shoes up every weekend. So if you're going to get a ton of miles out of this shoe, say you do 10 long runs in a shoe like this, you're going to be spending 20 hours in this shoe at least. That's nearly a full day of your life. So I would pay that $250 for a shoe like this if you're planning to race on it on race day and you want those extra elements of speed assistance. However, if you just want to finish the marathon in comfort, you're not worried about the speed, I would get a shoe like the Nova Blast 4 for $140. The Saucony Triumph 20 or 21, those are also down at about $100 now. Either of these two shoes, those are the top long run shoes, non-plated on the market, and they're under $150. So depending on your budget, there's tons of great options. You don't have to break the bank to train for a marathon, and you don't have to break the bank to get the gear. And last thing here, if you are not training for a marathon and you're doing long runs of an hour or 90 minutes, I wouldn't even worry about any of this. Completely disregard this entire video, and whatever you're running your everyday runs in, whether it's a Pegasus, a Hoka Clifton, Saucony Endorphin Speed 3, Brooks Ghost, whatever it is you're running your normal runs in, if you're doing hour long runs or 90-minute long runs, just use that shoe. And once you feel that you're not getting enough comfort or cushion or protection, that's when I think about upgrading it. But for most of us out there, we can use one shoe for all of our runs if we're only going up to an hour and not running every day of the week. So if you are planning on buying a new shoe from this video or at all in general, make sure to use my Running Warehouse links. I'll put them in the description below. I hate doing the sales pitch, but I'm trying to figure out ways to have you guys support the channel. So that's one of them. And of course, just continuing to watch these videos and giving me a thumbs up and a smiley face is another way to support the channel. And not complaining because the white on the shoe was blown out. I guarantee there's gonna be some copy. So all right, guys, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you all. I love you, and I will see you tomorrow with another video. Bang! Oh, one more thing, guys. I need to give a shout out to my guy, Brian B. from Capiche. That's his company. He's a founder of a brand strategy firm, Capiche. He suggested, recommended, requested this video topic. I was supposed to mention that in the beginning, but I forgot. So shout out to Brian from Capiche. If you need some brand strategy, check out Capiche. Capiche?